Hey, what's up YouTube? Today we're going to do an oil change on this 97 Chevy Blazer. I may have done an oil change video before on this. I'll have to go back and double check, but I'm going to do another video even if I did, just so that I can use this better camera that I have to get you a little bit clearer images of what I'm doing here. So this is the 4.3 liter, the V6, the Vortec. And like I said, we're going to be just changing oil on it. This is a 97 Blazer. Just to go over some of the basic things you're going to need is I just have a basic socket set and socket wrench. I believe it's a 15 millimeter. We have an oil wrench here, oil filter wrench. The choice of oil that I'm using is I'm actually going to use Havoline full synthetic. It's 10W30. This vehicle calls for 5W30. I just put the heavier weight in there mainly because of the fact that the engine has 150,000 miles on it, and I just figured a heavier weight might be a little bit better for it since it does burn it a little bit. So that's what I'm going to be using. It takes about 4.5 quarts of this vehicle. I bought 5. And then I have the oil filter, which is just the Advanced Auto brand. It's the DriveWorks brand. It's the DW-4011. If you're using the factory oil filter for it, it is the AC Delco PF52. Some of the new filters are high efficiency, so it'll say PF52-E for efficiency. I also have a optional, which is my grease gun. The grease gun is going to be used to lube the front end chassis and steering components on this vehicle. I have the electric, which is optional, impact, a 1/2-inch impact, battery operated. That's going to be used to help take the bolts off for the skid plate for me to access the front chassis components. I got a rag, a filter, and of course a drain pan. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. I have some gloves here as well as a magnetic dish to hold my fasteners and my oil plug when I take it out so it doesn't get lost. And I've already pulled the vehicle up here onto some car ramps here. If you don't have car ramps, this vehicle actually sits up high enough. Mine anyway does. You might be able to do this without even pulling it up on the ramps. I just choose to pull it up on ramps mainly for video purposes so that I can really get under there and show you what I'm doing a little bit more clearly. And of course I have it in park, and also I have the vehicle emergency brake engaged, and I have the back wheel chucked here with some bricks here as well. And this is just for safety purposes. You don't want this vehicle rolling over on you. One of the things also that I do is I have a 4-wheel drive vehicle. To help better get it on ramps, if you choose to do that, I recommend putting the car or the vehicle in 4 high. This will give you the better opportunity to get it up on the ramps. These ramps tend to try to walk away from you on a rear-wheel drive vehicle. When you pull up on them, they just kind of slide out from you. So the 4-wheel drive helps the front wheels grip so it can kind of pull itself up the ramps a little easier. So if you've never used the ramps, I just advise use caution. You don't want to get hurt or have it drive off the ramp. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go underneath here and get a quick look at what we're doing. Always want to make sure that you can locate your dipstick if you've never done an oil change before. Your dipstick for passenger side is over here by the alternator. It's the yellow handle on mine. This is the transmission fill port and dipstick, and then this is the actual engine oil cap, which, like I said, it says sale 5W30 on our say. I'm going to make sure that I can get it out first. You always want to do that before going to change your oil. Make sure you can get the cap out, because you don't want to go draining all your oil out and have something wrong with the cap and not be able to refill it. You can refill through a dipstick, but it'd be very tedious. So we're just going to loosely just kind of throw that back in there so no debris or anything falls back in there. Of course, I'm doing a terrible job because I'm not left-handed. This also gives you an opportunity to top off all your fluids, check your oil or your tire air pressure. I have my air hose out here ready to go, so we can do that. So let's go underneath, take a quick look before I put you on tripod so you can see what you're getting into. If you go down underneath the front of the vehicle here, the first thing that you're going to come across here is right as you get behind the bumper. This is the actual oil filter access panel. It can be loosened by either a Phillips head or a flathead screwdriver. You just turn that to the left and it unlocks it, and that little flap flops down, and that enables you to access the oil filter on this particular make and year and model. And then if you go a little further back from there, you can see there is the oil pan right there. So the oil pan is, here's the front cross member. This is the 4-wheel drive front differential right there. And then that's the oil pan. As you can see, I do have an oil leak. It's not like significant to the point where it's like I'm losing a ton of oil, but I would say I lose about 1/4 of a quart every 1,000 miles, which isn't terrible for an older vehicle. It is losing oil behind the rear main seal. So you can see here, right there, you can see it dripping off there, which means it's coming out of the rear main seal, which is to be expected. I'm also pretty sure it's probably leaking from the oil pan gasket, and I would be very confident that it's probably also leaking from the front crank seal as well. So it's just what these 4.3s do. I mean, it's just something I'm used to and aware of, so I just keep an eye on the oil. It's just too much work to get involved in changing all that stuff on this high of a mileage vehicle and the age. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get cracking into this. The oil drain plug is located in the back of the pan, which is right here. The oil drain plug on this, I believe, is a 15 millimeter, I want to say, from memory serves me. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and get into there and start working on getting that oil drain out, and then we'll go ahead and access the oil filter and show you how to do that. So I'm going to put you on pause. I'm going to go ahead and get you set up on tripod so you can see what I'm doing, and then we're going to get rolling with this, guys. So hold tight. Thank you. Okay, we're back. We're going to go ahead and start the draining process for this oil change. What I did was I have my socket wrench here that has the 15 millimeter on it. I'm just going to go ahead and crack it loose. Now, if this does seem too tight, you can also use a breaker bar to get this loose, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, obviously. Shouldn't be too bad because I change oil myself all the time on my vehicles. So it shouldn't be too terrible to crack this loose here. Alright, that should do it. Try to keep most of my head out of the way here so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. I got some gloves on because the oil can be hot. Position your pan a little bit back further than the drain plug because it does tend to come rushing out of here. Now they do recommend replacing these drain plugs. I'm not going to bother because I just recently replaced mine on the previous oil change. You do that at your own risk, guys. But mine has a fresh gasket and everything on it. It's in good shape, so it's not leaking from there. So I'm not terribly concerned about it. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking this drain plug here, just checking it for any major metal particles here. It looks like it's pretty good. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe it off, make sure I get it cleaned, make sure there's no debris or anything on it. And I'm just going to let this drain here. And pull the pan, might have to pull it back towards you, the drain pan, as it starts to slow down, because it'll start to move forward, the flow, as it starts getting lower inside the oil pan. The oil actually doesn't look too bad. It's slightly shy of 3,000 miles. But even though it is slightly shy of 3,000 miles, I prefer to go ahead and change it anyway, so that I know that it's in good condition before I make any trips. I plan on taking it on a little road trip here today, out of state possibly. So I want to make sure that my oil's in good shape and everything else is looking good under here too. So oil changes I love doing because this gives you the perfect opportunity to get underneath your vehicle and inspect everything, make sure all the proper chassis and steering components are obviously lubricated and filled with grease. So this gives you a really good opportunity to check everything too and make sure your tires and everything look good, and overall just inspect things. Look at your engine mounts, look at everything while you're under here. So make sure everything looks good, look for other leaks. This really can save you a lot of money if you can spot a problem in advance. Now, once again, this vehicle looks pretty decent for the age and mileage. It has about 150,000 on it. I drive it as a secondary vehicle, just as more or less a toy, and I like to use this vehicle to make my YouTube videos, obviously. I've done extensive amount of work to this vehicle. As you can see, most of my videos on my channel are relating to this particular Blazer. Okay, I think we're in good shape. That's pretty much enough. You don't have to sit here and wait forever. I mean, it's you know, I can tell from looking at the pan that, you know, all four and a half quarts appear to be drained out. So there's always going to be a little bit of a dribble left over as the oil drains down from the top of the engine back into the pan. So that should be good enough. You'll see that the drip will almost come to a stop. Now, if you really want to wait, you could sit and wait for it to completely quit draining, but it's really not necessary. I mean, there's such a small residual amount in there that it's not going to hurt it to cap it back off with the a little bit dripping out of here. So we're going to go ahead and throw this plug back in. Now we're going to clean off the surface real good, make sure that there's no debris or anything around where the plug has to seal up. There we go. Now it's starting to slow down. You can see that probably on camera. It's a very slow drip. So we're going to go ahead and cork it back up now. That should be good. Now I'm not going to give you the exact foot-pound torques on this. I mean, I'm sure there obviously is one. There's a torque for everything engineers design, but I'm not going to go crazy here, guys. You just use common sense if you're doing this. Hopefully you have common sense to not over-tighten stuff. Just kind of dry stuff up while you're under here. This gives you the chance to make sure, you know, you can spot any leaks ahead of time, you know, because if it's dry now and you start seeing a dribble or a drop of oil on something down here, then you know you got a leak somewhere. You can check to make sure everything's tight. So we got the socket wrench untightened. We're going to kind of give it a quick little snug, and then we're going to go one little fourth a turn. That's all you need to do, because you don't want to crack this pan. So you crack that and you're not going to be having a very good day. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to change your attention over to the front here, and I'm going to get you set up on tripod here so you can see the oil filter being changed. So we're going to do that next, so hold tight while I get you guys set up on tripod for that. Alright guys, we're back here. We're going to go ahead and start working on the oil filter now. So I have you positioned on the front of the vehicle, and like I said, I'm going to try not to kick this camera over. I've got a kind of a dinky generic tripod on it, so I do plan on getting a better one here eventually once I get back to work. So what we're going to do, don't mind my messy hair, we're going to use the flathead screwdriver. We're going to go ahead and turn it to the left, and then this shield will just fall down, and it has a little clip in there that kind of holds it in place. And up inside here is the oil filter, and that's what we're going to have to loosen up there. So I'm going to grab my oil filter wrench, because we probably will need it. Now I'm going to show you the filter, and then I'm going to put you back on tripod. The reason why I'm not going to hold the camera up in there is A, I don't want to get oil on my camera when it loosens, and B, it's going to be hard for me to hold the camera and work on taking the filter out at the same time. So let me go ahead and just take you over and show it to you real fast. So if you come in here, and then I flip you around, and as you can see, there's the filter right there. That's the oil cooler that it connects to. So that's the oil filter right there. And that's just lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, obviously. And actually, if you look there, that's the steering gearbox right there. Right between those that line, that electric line, and the hoses. It's a good chance to inspect your brake lines too, because your brake lines, like that's one of the brake lines right there, the one with the white powdery look on it. That's actually one of the brake lines. So that one goes over to the passenger front wheel, so it's a good chance to inspect that. So alright, I'm going to put you back on tripod, obviously to make it easier. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this filter, and you can watch that process. I'm going to get an extra drain pan for that, so we'll be back in a minute, guys. Okay guys, we're back again. We're going to go ahead and use this oil filter wrench here. You can get these tools at pretty much any place. You probably get all this stuff at Walmart if you needed to. We're going to go ahead and get up under here and see if we can crack this loose here. Might be hard. I normally do it from the other side, so trying to determine what angle. I think I need to go the other way. Sorry, I've reversed myself here, guys. Apologize. Maybe I was going the right way. Sorry, making a fool out of myself because I'm flip-flopped from the way I normally sit when I do this, so. now we gotta make sure this pan is in the right place. And then we can go ahead and twist that filter loose. It's gonna start draining. And a very important thing to mention here is you want to make sure that this this O-ring on here, on the end of the rubber O-ring, you want to make sure it comes off with it, because you don't want to double up the rubber O-ring gasket that's on the filter, that the old one sticks to the cooler, and you got to screw the filter on. You don't want to have two filters on there, or two gaskets on there. It could blow up your engine, because what will happen is it could get caught into the compartment where it needs to be for the oil to flow through there, and then it'll end up ruining your engine. So make sure you check that. This is also a good chance to get in here and inspect everything's nice and clean. I'm going to grab a rag here, shake my rag off. I don't want no debris getting in there. We're just going to come up in here, we're going to just kind of dab it up, clean it, make sure there's no dirt or anything in there. Alright, that looks pretty good there. Actually, it looks pretty clean. Everything looks like it's in good shape there. So we're going to grab the new filter. And this is something I always do, is I grab a fresh quart of oil, the new filter. Now, they say to prime your filters, which means you should put a little bit of oil inside of your filter. Now, that's not always possible, especially on a vehicle like this that has the filter going in horizontally instead of vertically. So that can be a little difficult to prime it. You know, what they mean by prime is they mean fill it up with oil till the inside of the filter. So the new filter. So let's make sure you're still recording here. Good. Okay. So I'm gonna get some fresh motor oil here. I'm just gonna take some oil here, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna see here if I can. You can even see what I'm doing on camera. We're gonna just go ahead and put a little bit of oil in here. We're not gonna fill it up, because obviously I can't fill it up with the fact that it's a vertical filter. Just enough to make sure we get some oil in there. And then I spilt some on the top, which is okay, because what I'm going to do here is I'll make sure you can see what I'm actually doing. I'm going to take some of this oil here and I'm going to rub it all over this gasket here, this rubber O-ring. That helps the filter tighten down, and it also seals it and keeps it from leaking, and that also makes it so you can get the thing back off the next time. Alright, and then we're just going to lay in front of your view so you can't see what I'm doing here. And then I'll lay here, and I'm going to just go ahead and screw this new filter on here. I'll try to anyway. Okay, now they say it just needs to be hand tight, but my hand tight versus someone else's hand tight could be a totally different story. So what I'm going to do is just clean up the filter the best I can, get all the oil off it. And I'm going to try to get up in here and just give it a nice little... There. Okay. So, you don't want it ridiculous, but you also don't want it coming loose. So, once again, common sense, guys. Alright, so before I get too involved in showing you the other stuff I want to do today, such as oiling the chassis, we're just going to go ahead and push this back up in there, like so. Grab my screwdriver, push up, and it just locks righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Now, we're going to go up to the top of the engine here and grab my funnel. Make sure the funnel's clean. You don't want to be dumping a bunch of goop into your engine. Alright, now we're going to try to reposition the tripod so you can watch me fill the oil up. So, hold tight, guys, and we'll be back in just a second here to watch that part. Alright, guys, we're back. We're at the back of the engine here. You can see my filter there. It's in the actual compartment where you put the oil. We're going to start off with the oil that we already opened to help fill up the oil filter, as well as coat the O-ring of the oil filter, the gasket. We're just going to start filling the oil up. I really like this Havoline stuff. I believe it's made by Chevron. Synthetic. I get it on sale at Advance. They run specials for 20 bucks, $19.99. 5 quarts of the Havoline full synthetic 5W or 10W30. I'm sure other weights as well. It's like 20 bucks I got it, and it's full synthetic, and it also includes the filter. Now I could upgrade it to the better filter for $2 more, which would be the Pure Later filter, classic, but I just chose to go with the advanced auto filter, the DriveWorks. A lot of you guys are probably like, why the heck would you use a crappy economy filter? But to be honest, like I said, this is my secondary vehicle. I know it's only $2 more, but I've used the DriveWorks filters before and I have had no problems with them. In some cases, I feel like the DriveWorks filters are actually a little bit more solid, heavier, and better manufactured than the AC Delco ones. So it's something I've noticed lately, is the AC Delco filters don't seem to be made as well anymore. They've changed their whoever manufactured them, I don't know, they're just not very good quality. So the DriveWorks one for me works just fine. So it's roughly 2 quarts. Keep in mind I used a little bit of it for the filter. Alright, moving on to the 3rd quart. Like I said, this vehicle capacity, according to the book, calls for 4.5 quarts. This oil seemed to do really good in here. I had used this oil on the previous oil change. The only difference was I had used the 5W 30 instead of the 10W 30. So, looks like I'm going to be getting a new battery for my camera soon. So this should be 4 quarts. We're just going to put the whole thing in here. And then we'll get to the next one here in just a second. Yeah, my battery I got for $5. My dad purchased it at a yard sale. Had an extra battery, extended life battery and everything. It's a little Canon camera. It's a HF M31. It records onto a memory card, and it has a built-in 32 gigs. And you guys are obviously witnessing it right now. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, for $5, it's probably like a $250 or even $300 camera, I'm assuming. But I definitely need to get a better battery for it. I think I just discovered why my car battery went dead. I had to change the battery in here today on this Blazer, and I think I know why. I just realized my interior lights, I must have left them on last night, and that would be why the battery was dead. I just happened to look inside and see that the interior light was on, but the doors are closed, so I was like, Alright, so let's see here. We're checking to see here. Okay. It's about a half a quart. So I put a little bit extra in there because, like I said, I know this vehicle eats it anyway. So it's actually not good to overfill your oil. It can actually be more detrimental than underfilling it in some cases. So, but that's it, guys. We're going to go ahead and screw the cap on. We're going to start it up, let it run for a minute, pull it off the ramps, check the level and make sure the level looks good there on the dipstick. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that skid plate, and I'm going to go ahead and while I'm underneath it, I'm going to drop that skid plate on the front there that covers all the chassis components, and I'm going to make sure everything's lubricated underneath there, like the pitman arm and everything. So we're going to do that as well. So hold tight, I'm going to put this oil cap back on, and then we're going to climb underneath and take a look. Okay, and we're back. I was going to replace the battery on this, but my other battery's defective, and even though I charged it, it's saying replace battery, so I definitely need some new batteries for this camcorder. But anyhow, what I'm going to do is, because I'm probably not going to have enough time with battery that I have, even though this one was fully charged, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take out this fastener here. Now I'm missing one here. There's one here, and then there's one right about over there, and then another one that's going to be over here on this side. I'm going to drop this skid plate, and then I'm going to go under here and I'm going to lube all the front chassis components that need lube, such as the pitman arm and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crack that loose. I'm going to use my impact. Those are 15 millimeter. I believe those are 15 millimeter. They're either 15 or 18. I think they're 15. So I'm going to get that cracked off, and once that's cracked off, then I'll go ahead and show you the components that will be lubricated here, and then we'll call this video quits. So hold tight, guys. Alright guys, I'm going to show you here. I went ahead and dropped the little front panel there. And this is what you see when you take it off here. There's the oil filter that we just installed. So the components you want to look for, we're going to start from the driver's side. You want to lubricate the ball joint. This is the lower ball joint, and I don't know if you can see in there, probably not, but there's a grease cert that is, let's see if I can get it on camera here. I probably won't be able to get it on camera because there's too much junk in the way here. But there is a grease cert in there for greasing this lower ball joint. There's one for the upper ball joint that's on top of the control arm, so it's up on top of here. The other thing is you have the outer tie rod here that needs to be lubricated. There's a grease cert on top of that. Should be anyway if it's aftermarket for sure. And then when you swing around here, there's going to be an inner tie rod there that needs to be greased. There's a grease cert on that. The other component you want to look at under here is going to be the pitman arm here, which the pitman arm is the part that connects the steering box to the main steering link here. That's the pitman arm right there. There's a grease cert on there. Once again, it can't see at this angle, but it's on the other side of it. And then if you go across the steering link here, you should be able to see this is the idler arm right here, bolts up to the frame. There's a grease cert right here, and then there's one as well on there, but it's on the other side, and that's for that, for the idler arm. And then when you come down here, you have your lower ball joint, your upper ball joint that needs to be greased. Once again, your outer and inner tie rods, and that's pretty much it. And you basically just use a grease gun for that. And I'm not going to get into details of showing you that. I'll do a separate video on that one day soon on how to properly lubricate those items. Looks like this bushing here is shot. This is your sway bar bushing here. It is just completely disintegrated. It's all pulling apart and cracked, and so I would say that needs to be replaced here. That'll be a future video to do. This one here is also cracked and shot, so I'll be doing that. And it looks like there's the sway bar links look like they could be used, replaced too. So, but anyhow, that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, make sure you pull the vehicle down onto the level, check the oil level, make sure everything's good there before driving it. And other than that, thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.